If you thought Ferrari's worst-kept secret was their engine, you've been lied to, so let's get real. Hamilton didn't come complaining, he charged in, "What the hell is this power steering?" It wasn't a gripe, it was a grenade tossed at Maranello's heart. It's not just grip, it was a cultural earthquake, a voice elite enough to scream at Ferrari's soul. And that phrase, "What the hell is this?" wasn't about parts, it was an indictment. Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow, we expose who truly called the shots in that garage, who stood up, who folded, and who's digging Ferrari out of its own political mud. They thought he'd smile for the cameras, wave to the tifosi, and quietly adapt. But Lewis Hamilton walked into Fiorano, drove 3 corners, and exposed 6 years of compromise. It doesn't translate. The wheel, it doesn't talk back. 3 curves, that's all it took. Not data, not telemetry, just feel. Behind that steering wheel was Ferrari's hidden sin, a dead zone. Micro movements vanished, precision muted, and no one, not even Leclerc, had dared say it out loud. Why? Because Ferrari didn't build a car for a driver. They built it against conflict, a machine engineered by committee, designed to offend no one and therefore to serve no one. And Hamilton, he didn't just notice, he challenged the philosophy. I want the wheel to be an extension of my hand. It wasn't a request, it was a demand. And that demand landed at the desk of a man no tifosi had ever heard of, but who was about to reprogram the Ferrari from within. Ricardo Adami wasn't hired to start a revolution, he was there to optimize, fine-tune, keep things civil. But when Hamilton threw down the gauntlet, it was Adami who picked it up. You want linearity? Then we'll build your steering. And so, quietly, without press releases or grand unveilings, Ferrari split its soul in 2. One system for Leclerc, one for Hamilton. Leclerc's kept the soft edges, the forgiving delay. Hamilton's raw, instant, ruthless. The data didn't lie. On simulator runs in Mugello, Hamilton's traces were clean, minimal corrections. Leclerc's like static on a radio. Behind closed doors, engineers stared at the screens in silence. They weren't just comparing inputs, they were watching an empire unravel. Because now the question wasn't technical, it was existential. Whose feel defines Ferrari? Fred Vasseur didn't speak. He stared at the screen for 12 seconds. On it, 2 telemetry overlays. Leclerc's, jittery, crowded, indecisive. Hamilton's, sharp, clean, almost surgical. The data wasn't opinion, it was a mirror. And it showed something no one in Maranello wanted to admit. The neutral steering wasn't neutral at all. It was flawed, dumbed down, politically convenient. "We'll run it in FP1, Vasseur said. One sentence, but inside Ferrari, it echoed like an earthquake. Because admitting Hamilton was right didn't just mean changing parts, it meant changing identity. For 5 years, the team had engineered compromise. Now, one man's feel, one outsider's instinct was pulling the Scuderia out of its own fog. And that FP1 and Spa wasn't just a test session, it was a silent vote of no confidence in everything Ferrari thought it knew about its own car. When the car turned differently, so did the politics. Hamilton's steering setup wasn't just faster, it felt faster, more responsive, more alive. But while engineers whispered about cleaner mid-corner phases and less aero disruption, one figure grew quieter: Charles Leclerc. He never complained, that's not his way, but those who know him saw the shift: tight jawlines, shorter meetings, more simulator time. He wasn't being replaced, but suddenly, he wasn't the standard anymore. Ferrari had spent 4 years telling Charles he was the future. Now they were recalibrating that future around someone else's touch, someone else's instinct. It's just a different system, they told him. But in F1, different means one thing: someone blinked first. And under the surface, a question began to swell. If Hamilton can change the steering, what else will he reshape next? The first laps with the new system didn't make headlines. No one won a race, no trophies changed hands. But inside the simulator bay, jaws tightened. Hamilton's lap times were consistent. Cleaner exits, fewer corrections, more trust in the front end. One engineer whispered, "It doesn't feel like a Ferrari anymore." But that wasn't criticism, it was awe. Because what they were really saying is, it feels like something that wins. And suddenly old names came up in hushed conversations, names like Toad, Byrne, and Schumacher. Not because Hamilton is like Michael, but because only once before had Ferrari allowed itself to be reshaped by a driver's hands. And like Schumacher, Hamilton wasn't adjusting to the car. He was bending the car to his will. One demand, one system, one statement. From now on, Ferrari doesn't compromise. Every system has a fuse, and at Ferrari, that fuse is written in Lewis Hamilton's contract. Because if the steering wasn't fixed, if the car didn't become an extension of his hand, he could walk. Not to another team, but out and tell everything. He saw it in 3 corners, said one mechanic. Imagine what he could expose in 3 months. That's why no one blinked when his race engineer changed, why simulator runs went off schedule, why 2 setups quietly became one, his. Because if Hamilton leaves, he doesn't just exit, he detonates. Maranello isn't just protecting a driver, it's protecting the illusion of control. The idea that the system chooses the car, not the other way around. But for the first time in years, the system bent. And now, with both cars likely to run Hamilton's settings, the message is clear. Ferrari's future has a new signature, and it's not Italian. In Maranello, they don't call it a revolution. They call it a calibration, a refinement, a necessary update. But everyone knows the truth. Ferrari blinked, and Hamilton didn't. Now, both cars are rumored to run his steering setup. The dead zones are gone, the damping reduced. The Scuderia finally moves the way one man always believed it should. But this isn't closure, it's exposure. Because if performance spikes, the verdict is written in grip and corner speed. If it doesn't, then the garage fractures again, and this time there may be no repair. It wasn't a preference, one engineer said, it was performance. And if that's true, then Hamilton hasn't just joined Ferrari, he's reprogrammed it. But until the lights go out and the lap times drop, one question hovers like mist over Fiorano. Did Ferrari save itself, or just hand Lewis the detonator? They told him to adapt, to trust the process, to respect the system. But Lewis Hamilton didn't come to fit in, he came to expose. And what he uncovered in just 3 corners forced Ferrari to look in the mirror. No more soft delay, no more engineered compromise. His steering setup, sharp, reactive, alive, rewrote how a Ferrari should feel. And when the data spoke, no one could deny it. This wasn't preference, it was performance. Fred Vasseur blinked, the garage split, Leclerc adjusted. Now both cars are aligned to Hamilton's touch. But that alignment isn't more than a calibration. It's a transfer of power. Inside Maranello, it's still called an update. But those who know the paddock understand what's really happening. This is no longer about telemetry. It's about territory. The moment Ferrari accepted Hamilton's demands, they did more than change the car. They opened the door to a new authority, a new hierarchy, a new fear. Because if one man can alter the steering, what else can he reshape next? Strategy? Politics? The entire development path? And if it works, if the lap times confirm what the data suggested, Ferrari will have made its biggest change in a decade, without announcing it. So the question remains, did Ferrari save itself or crown its next emperor? And if things go wrong, will that same man hold the detonator?